Welcome everyone to our 7th Ward meeting, and we have a varied and interesting agenda, I think, tonight. And we're going to start hearing about the participatory budgeting process, which has been underway for quite some time, but it's only just now really something that we all need to pay attention to and participate in. So I'm going to introduce Celia Carlino, who is she's participatory budgeting coordinator. And we have a short video, and then Celia will talk. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me here today, and also for the people online, right? Do we have people online or no? Yes, so thank you. And I'm participatory budgeting coordinator. We're gonna watch a video about the work we've been doing since September last year. And actually it's gonna be ending this September, which means it's a 1 year of hard work in detail in our community. So first we're gonna watch the video, and then when the video is over, we are going to discuss a little bit.
Not long ago, we asked you to give your ideas about how we could best spend $3 million on improving life in Evanston. The fancy name for it is participatory budgeting. You sent in over 1,200 suggestions.
Affordable housing, sports equipment, that's free, mental health services.
Since then, volunteers who live, work, or study here in Evanston formed committees to figure out which ideas would be useful, helpful, and practical.
Our committee is on community safety, justice, and governance.
So we are the Food, Environment, and Sustainability Committee.
So we're the Housing Committee.
They looked for ideas that worked in other places and things they'd like to try for the first time.
This is a time where we need to show allyship with each other and claim our space.
Try to build a better bridge between Northwestern and Evanston.
They looked at needs.
I noticed that there's a discrepancy between the Black and Latino community.
Costs.
Because there are too many seniors who are having to leave Evanston because there's not enough affordable housing.
Priorities.
We can focus on those communities that need more resources.
Diverse communities.
We are focusing on the lack of Asian representation and visibility in Evanston.
Involucrarme en la comunidad es importante para ayudar a otras personas, en especialmente a muchos latinos que no les gusta involucrarse.
And by the time they're done, they will have chosen about 20 projects for you to consider.
We're focusing on lighting the parks and summer camps.
Then you will have another chance to be part of participatory budgeting by voting on the ideas you think would be best for Evanston.
It's feasible to improve a lot of people's lives by just making these fixes.
Participatory budgeting is different from the kind of voting you usually do. You need to be at least 14 years old, and you need to either live, work, go to school, have a child in school, or own a business in Evanston, and want it to be even better than it already is.
I don't know what else to say, but I think this is an amazing opportunity to get involved and to bring in great projects to the community.
Register online now to vote online during the month of September by going to www.pbevanston.org. How will the city of Evanston spend $3 million? With participatory budgeting, it's up to you.
Thank you. And I have a question. How many of you sign up for this project? Can you raise your hand? Great. So for the ones who didn't sign up, did you ever hear about participatory budgeting in Evanston? Did you? Okay, yes. Okay, so I'm here to create awareness about this project because we know many people many people saw us doing canvassing in different events in the city of Evanston, but not many people understand very well about this project. So this is an important project and a unique project first time implementing in Evanston. The city has $3 million allocated in Evanston. People who 14 years and up, live, work, study, or own a business in Evanston are eligible to participate. So many of you are here. That means each of you are eligible to participate. How are you going to participate? Right now, we are in the last process, which is voting time. We already did the whole hard work, which was idea collection. From November last year, which means the yellow line, to February of this year, we did 12 idea collections in the city of Evanston. We make sure everybody knows, but we also know not many people knew it. And we collect more than 1,300 ideas. We ask people how you want the city to spend $3 million. They provided ideas. We collect 1,300 ideas. But 1,300 ideas is great, but $3 million can really sponsor all those 1,300 ideas. So from February of this year until August, which is this month, we finalize and narrow down the ideas up to the 20, the most important and need in Evanston. Those 20 ideas are in a ballot, which I have right here. If you are interested, I will pass to you after I finish my meeting. So you could review the 20 final ideas. September is voting time. Your vote is gonna support one of those ideas because the ideas has the most vote. It's gonna be funding from the $3 million. It's that clear? Somebody have a question? Yes. One idea? No. So we have 20 final ideas, which each idea is already into proposal and each proposal has a budget. So voting time is the whole month of September. And you could vote in person and online. You could vote 1 up to 7 ideas. You don't have to vote 7 ideas, it's up to 7. You choose which ideas is the most important that you think Evanston needs. And then we have 2 events. We have 2 expos. The locations are going to be, if you want to write down, you could write down, or you're going to, after you sign up today, you're going to receive information in detail. So the 2 expos is going to be September 10th at Fleetwood Jordan Center from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. And the second project expo is going to be September 23 at Levy Center, which is going to be the same time, 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. You're gonna have the chance to see the 20 final ideas, which is gonna be kind of like when you go to any exhibitions, to meet actually the people who work about the proposal, to explain to you in details about the project, and then you check around and you make your vote. For the people are not available to go to those expos and you're traveling or you just want to be in your home, you could also vote online. For the people who sign up, you probably already receive a link to registering for vote, right? And those people just have to wait September 1st. You're gonna receive another link with your QR for you to vote. But the ones that didn't sign up yet, I need you guys to participate, because this is a unique project that requires your participation. That's the only way to work this project. And also, this is how actually democracy works too. Many people can participate, provide ideas. We heard the ideas, we narrow down the ideas, and finally, voting time. This Friday is voting time, so please support this project. Somebody have more questions or want a clarification? Yes.
Can you see these 20 projects online? Are they explained online?
Yes, we have already, if you go pbevanston.org, you will be able to have access to see the final 20 proposals. Yeah.
So I assume Evanston budget has different buckets, right? And so if there's infrastructure, that's a bucket. If there's needs to food insecurity that Evanston tries to help with, that would be a bucket. I guess the reason I'm asking this is a couple years ago at the Ecology Center, there was a meeting that talked about participatory budget, but it was just a list and you were supposed to check off what you wanted. And it was like, well, would you rather art programs or would you rather be able to subsidize school lunches. And I thought that was a pretty hard choice, unrealistic choice. So I'm just trying to say of these things, would they take away from what would typically be a budgeted item that supports the basic?
No, this is, well, this project is a unique first time implementing. It's something different. And yeah, so it's different budget. And actually, I forgot to mention, but this project or the money we got, it come from the ARPA funds from the federal government. Yeah, just to clarify your thoughts. Yeah, somebody has a question. This is the moment. Feel free to ask to clarify anything you wanted to understand.
So if you're a household of 4 people over 14 years old, all 4 can vote?
Yes. Okay. Yes. We actually went to the ETHS in the transition of the idea collections. We visit the ETHS and ask them how we should invest this $3 million. And all those teenagers really participate. I could see a lot enthusiastic. They were happy. They were happy to have an opportunity to participate in this unique project. Yes. This is really good. Everybody has questions.
I've already registered online, but am I able still to vote in person?
Yes, you are available to vote in person and online too, if you want. You can vote twice. The moment you register, you're gonna get a link, and that link is gonna send you, it's gonna be your QR for you to really register, to vote, and you only can use one time. Yeah. Okay, more questions? And yep, so remember the 2 expo projects, September 10th from 2 to 5 p.m. and September 23rd from 2 to 5 p.m. Both locations are different. The first one is at Street Jordan, and the second is at Libby Center. The whole month of September, so the last day of September. And you probably will see us in many different areas in Evanston to have like a booth, so you can approach to us and vote. If you go to Robert Crown, you will see like a little box with instructions for you to make your vote, Libby Center, the library, and we're trying to be on the street too. Okay.
Well, thank you, Celia. That was really helpful. I would just add that if you do go online and look at the ballot, if you click on the name of the item, it takes you to a poster with a lot of detail about what that project involves, how, what it would accomplish. So there is a lot of information online. If you can't get to the expo, which I think would probably obviously give you even more information. So, okay. Officer Howard. We're pleased to welcome you to the 7th Ward for your first official ward meeting with us.
I'm not gonna use it today. I'm gonna test it out. Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Adam Howard. And I'm the ward officer of the 7th Ward and also the 5th and 6th Ward. So today I'm going to present a safety report of the last 4 weeks. So beginning on July 28th, August 28th, we had 1 motor vehicle theft. We had 12 bicycle thefts. We had 1 theft of a catalytic converter. And we had 7 regular thefts. In a motor vehicle theft, it is a motorized scooter that was taken by unknown means. For a bicycle theft, we had several unsecured bicycles that were taken. And for the catalytic converter theft, it was solved obviously on one of the vehicles. Does anyone even have a Kia or Honda? Okay, what year? No. 21. 21. Okay, but it's push start. It's a push start. Okay, all right. Okay, so we host our catalytic converter event twice a year. So we straight pay the catalytic converter to prevent some of the thefts that have been happening in our community. Um, Also, calling the police. We have something that's called the clear method of risk reduction. Oh, sorry, I'm gonna get your question, hold on. We have a clear method of risk reduction, where C is call the police if you see any suspicious people or activities. L is lock your doors and windows. E is encourage your neighbors to be alert. And A is to, avoid having valuables visible to potential burglars. And R is to use to report the serial numbers on your electronics devices. Also, we experience some package theft. One thing that we can do to prevent that is pick up our packages from the Amazon lot. Another thing that I encourage my residents in the fifth ward with all the block club is that you can have a block club so that you can call the neighbor and say, hey, I'm out of town. I'm going to be late coming home. Can you pick up my packages? And also the Ring doorbell is a great tool to prevent thefts. Also for the catalytic converter thefts that have been occurring, we also encourage you to park your car in the garage if possible, or park in the relevant area. So now to open the floor for any questions. So I don't have the exact location on here for the crime stats, but I can give that to you. I can give you information and some of it.
If you have your catalytic converter painted on the back.
As far as I know, a lifetime is spray paint, so it's underneath the car, so it's not like, you know, rain or any type of, moisture to remove it, right? Yeah, so we actually crawl under the car, we spray paint the car. We had to sign a waiver, obviously, because obviously, there's no 100% way of preventing it, but it has been an effective tool for our department.
When is the next converter painting day?
So the next catalytic converter date hasn't been set, but typically we hold it in the spring and fall.
Okay, so there should be one soon then.
Yeah, should be happening soon. And if anyone has any questions like pertaining to like catalytic converters, there's also like a cage system that you can have installed in the vehicle. So that's another good mechanism. Anyone else have any questions?
I was hearing some concerns from residents who live close to, I guess, close to McCormick near the Arboretum, because there was, some, gunshots and a shooting, and I don't know, are things calmer now over there?
Yeah, so oftentimes when people call the police, particularly for gunshot incidents, officers will respond to the area. And we check for victims, any evidence, any shell casings or anything that would indicate that a shooting had taken place. And if there's nothing found, then a report is generated, but we have no further information.
Any other thoughts? Questions? Well, we're really glad to get a chance to meet you,
Yeah.
Officer Howard, and we will be in contact, I hope, for good reasons.
Yeah. And I'm gonna get your information before I leave.
Whoops.
So I'll get that information.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is traffic going up or down? Ooh, this is a question that comes up often. Summertime is very busy for our officers. So it's really hard to really gauge the crime is going up or down. I would say it's the call for service, like in the downtown area. Because more people are in the area. You have kids who are out of school, out of summer camp. We get calls at Turkendine, we get calls at Fountain Square. So it's really hard to gauge the crime is going up or down. Year over year, we would get these things. I'm sorry. Year over year, not month to month. Year over year, like I said, it depends on what crime you are referring to. If you're referring to like a type 1 crime, which would be like a burglary or a robbery or a battery or a homicide, then that would be for that particular category. But I don't have any information in front of me. I don't give you false information. Thank you.
I just wondering if we heard from Chief Stewart, months back, and he spoke about the staffing challenge.
Yes.
I don't know if that's anything you can address, or you having luck in recruiting and addressing.
Well, I'm glad that you brought that up because we do have 3 new laterals from other police departments. But we are actively recruiting lateral officers, new police officers to join this great community. It is a tough task. So if you have any relatives who are interested in law enforcement and work in other departments, please encourage them to sign up. I would say that our pay scale is comparable to the surrounding areas. And then we have a great community. We got Northwestern University, we got a lakefront, so we're looking for more cops.
Great. Thanks very much. Yeah. Okay, now we're ready to hear about our efficiency home project. I'm going to introduce David Wallach, who's, yep. He's got pictures. Oh, here we go.
Gets better up in front, behind me. Sure. Thank you, and thank you, Alderman, for the opportunity, and want to thank everybody for coming out this evening. My name is David Wallach. I'm a local kid from the area. I grew up in West Wilmette. My twins were born here at Evanston Hospital. We raised our kids up in Glencoe. I've been eating hot dogs at Muster's Last Stand as long as I can remember. So to have the opportunity to build in your own backyard is something that's I hold very dear. So I appreciate the opportunity. By further way of background, I'm an attorney by trade, was a zoning lawyer, chaired the Governmental Affairs Committee for the Illinois Home Builders Association from 2002 to 2006. Have been a part of, we like to use the term more attainable housing than affordable housing because it comes with a little bit of baggage. Since the late 90s, early 2000s, was called to testify in front of the Chicago Commission on Human Relations relating to housing in the city of Chicago. I've been developing since the mid-90s. Most of my projects have been mid-rise and high-rise. We've done a lot of single-family homes. In 2015, I bought a manufacturing company, and we manufacture light gauge insulated walls in order to build more energy efficient homes and reduce people's utilities and provide them better spaces to live. And we've been developing and using our walls for single family homes and mid-rises since then. And most recently started building our own for our own account. Chicago adopted an ADU ordinance a couple years ago. Evanston has, in my opinion, as a geek that reads the stuff like nationally, in my opinion, maybe the best accessory dwelling unit ordinance in the country. We've built those here in Evanston and in the city of Chicago. So the opportunity here to build housing, terms that are used, efficiency homes, and other adjectives that define people's living, I think is a disservice to the term home. Homes where you live, and not to stand on the soapbox too much, things are very expensive out there, and keep going up. There was an interesting study written done by Harvard in 2015, Harvard Market Study on housing, and it was really a comparison between home ownership and home rentals in the country, and one of the premises in it was that home ownership peaked in 2007 before the crash at about a little over 70%, when the national average historically has been closer to 50%. So there's about a 20% difference between historical averages and that time. Each 1% represented 1 million rooftops. And it went on to talk about the group that was most moving from home ownership actually back to rental was the boomers, who at that point there was a lot of wealth lost in post depression there in housing. And what was very interesting about the article, it had an asterisk about the largest segment of our population, which is no longer boomers. It's actually the millennials. And the asterisk was that they couldn't calculate how many millennials were either owning or renting because they were still kind of in their parents' basement, and they couldn't really calculate what that number was. And it's indicative generally of, I think, somewhat of a transformative way of living today. Again, the largest segment of our population not liking the housing that's out there and entering into that. Affordability, I mean, since sitting down just a few minutes ago and listening to the few presentations in front of us, the affordable housing was a term used several times. And there's no silver bullet for it. You know, there's a lot of different people that are trying to do things a lot of different ways, and they're all to be commended. I said I don't like to use the word affordable with affordable housing because there's the federal connotation to it, and oftentimes it's things with large subsidies. And I can tell you, as somebody in the development game, there's nothing affordable about some of the affordable housing that's built. There just isn't. It's just overly subsidized housing is really all that it is. It's people and contractors and developers, some of them that are in that game, are looking for better ways for people to live. So what we've done and what our focus is, Blue Paint Development is the development company. Our housing company is called SIP Homes, and what we're focused on is delivering better, more attainable housing in various segments. And within that, there's quality as being the number one part. I think when people think of smaller or less expensive homes, the first thing that comes to mind is lack of quality, and there's good reason. In this segment here, we can talk about micro homes a little bit in a minute, but those that are in that space that are doing similar type of housing, it's some of the worst housing. I've been through some of the factories, and candidly, I wouldn't let my dog live in some of the housing that I see built. We have a problem nationally with the current housing stock that we have. We have older homes, and those older homes generally get sold quicker when they come on the market. And the problem with that isn't that it's great that we're reusing homes, but it's oftentimes because the boomers are moving out and they had 15 or 20 years of deferred maintenance, and they've passed that deferred maintenance on to a younger couple that can't afford to live anywhere else, that are trying to raise a family or their first home purchase, or trying to live in the community. And that person moving in typically can't afford the deferred maintenance either. And we're just kind of perpetuating what is, for the most part, not very good housing. We're roughly currently last statistic that we're roughly 8 million homes short in this country. It's a big problem. It's a big problem. Another problem that hits a community like Evanston, and I would say other neighborhoods that have affluency at a national level, is keeping people in your community that get kind of pushed out, or people that aren't making a very high salary but are working in your community and want to live in the community. And this is the type of housing that we're focused on. So we're focused on delivering a high quality, very high quality housing product that people can afford. So the project that we're proposing and have approached and the alderman within the city, who I applaud. They're forward thinking and really have this community's interest very much at heart. It's a 13 unit project here that's made up of 10 micro homes and 3 essentially accessory dwelling units that will be built over parking structure in the alley off the rear. We'll be eliminating 2 curb cuts on Grant Street, which will add more parking to Grant Street. Currently the count is 10 parking spaces in the rear, although I think we can get a few more in there by angling them instead of pulling straight in. So I don't have the final count on that. But that's the range of where we're at. The home should operate mostly off the grid. Our walls are again, it's a light gauge insulated wall product that has about R28 R value on the walls and over R50 in the ceiling. The sound attenuation of our walls is depending on 1 sheet of drywall or 2 is somewhere in the high 50s or low 60s. The air quality in the units, we built a home in Highland Park, a little bit more money than this one. And the woman that ultimately bought the home moved in with her mother, who was an asthmatic, and would tell you now that she has no problems in the home because there is no mold perpetuating in it. It is a cleaner environment. We have an ERV in that one, but quality again is of most importance. Density is always a question and an issue for it. On a project like this, though, rather than looking at a site and trying to squeeze in units that are connected housing with no grass in between them and planting, we've elected to put forth a project where it is more communal in terms of the approach. The term for this type of product is called a pocket neighborhood, and there's a really decent website online called pocketneighborhood.net. And the promotion of this type of product nationally is a good start to a solution-based approach to providing high quality, attainable, and affordable, using the term colloquially, housing in a community. So with that, I'll kind of open it up for questions. Yes.
Curious about storage.
Yeah. No, they are on permanent foundations, but no basements. They're closets. Yes, there are. The closets, and there's a rear, actually, exterior storage space off the back here, in the rear, in that space off the rear of the property. So that's 12 feet tall and about 4 feet wide. Yeah, it's going to be a condo overlay on it, so it'll be common upkeep for it. Absolutely, yeah. Sure. What type of what? Yeah, it depends. There's a text amendment that is part of the application for it. I'll defer. Yeah, sorry.
Right. When David's finishing answering your questions about the project, then Megan Jones is going to talk about the approval process.
We're trying to ask for as little as possible, candidly. I mean, yes.
Well, I like the project, it sounds great, but are we going to really specifically try to cater to the market that would want to buy these homes? And the reason I'm asking is what I'm hearing is cash offers, things going for sometimes several $100,000 that we're asking because there's something for it.
Yeah.
Or someone drop it, right?
Yeah.
Right? I don't know. The developer will sell. move on to the next project. But I just wonder how that.
Yeah, a few things to that, and I appreciate that. And it is a for sale product. Again, the promotion here is to promote home ownership in that. So it's definitely a focal point. We should be so lucky as having bidding wars on all of them. And I think that they will go quickly because of the quality that we have, and priced right at around $300,000. That gets you into a home with very, very, very low utilities for $1,600 a month plus or minus with taxes. So so that is the goal, is to promote the home ownership. We haven't completed the decks and bylaws yet for it in terms of rentals. In order, the Fannie Mae Freddie Mac guidelines is typically under 20% allowable for rentals to make that product sellable on the secondary market. So it is something that you're always watching. I can't tell you that people haven't lied to us in the past, and we can't. It's hard to police, but I can tell you that the commitment that we have for this is for home ownership and to allow people to live in the community. I'm sorry, that gentleman, and I'll come back over to you, gentleman. Yeah, there's a few. Again, and pocketneighborhood.net is a good website for it. There haven't been many. There's a few in Texas. There was one that I'm familiar with in Michigan. I know there's a few in California. And the reason for it, I'll answer it more as a zoning lawyer than anything else. I mean, zoning law is been historically written to keep those kind of people, whoever we want to define as those kind of people, away from these kind of people. And up until a few years ago, anything less than 600 square feet wasn't defined as a home, right? So you have this tremendous need nationally for housing, attainable housing, and you have most communities not allowing it. And that's kind of the give and take right now at a national level. Our factory is up in Wisconsin, and I went to the mayor in Kenosha, and that downtown needs a lot of help, right? And their idea of a lot of help is wait for a big developer to come and build a big 10-story concrete building and you know, kind of pie in the sky stuff, while sitting on their hands for a period of time. They're promoting it and starting to do stuff, but urbanism is very much small ball, right, in baseball terms. And so I went to the mayor and I said, you know, give me a parking lot there. We'll put 6 on there, and if you don't like them, in 2 years we'll move them all off. But that wasn't the focus. The focus is on a big multi-story thing, and you know, we need parking in the city. And parking doesn't go into the restaurant, right? I mean, the cars don't go out and eat. It's the people that do that, and you need to have communities that understand the issues, that are supportive of solving the problems, in a community that gets behind it. And it's unique. It doesn't happen everywhere. So you're not going to find a lot of them. You're going to find more of them coming, but there aren't enough, candidly, there aren't enough Evanstons. There just aren't. I'm sorry, that woman there. Sorry. Yeah, yes. Yeah. Approximately 360 square feet. The ADUs above are about 380. Working on it. So great question. I'm going to, without committing to it, I'm going to say yes. We're working really hard on it right now to get the right fit for it with the program, but where's you? No, for the mortgage, for the living. Yeah. The utilities will be pocket change. I think people spend more at Starbucks than on their utility bill. Yes. They're one story. The parking is underneath. So they're up a staircase, and then there's 3 ADUs up on top, accessory dwelling units. They're only 1 story. They're above, there's 10, right now it's laid out. We're trying to squeeze a little more. I think we can on an angle, but we have 10 spaces in the back right now, and those 3 units are above that structured parking. Yeah. Yeah, they do. Yeah. Mostly enclosed, yeah. Okay. I would leave that to the alderman as the future for that. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, well, the goal is to get off the grid, but because of the extensive R value of the walls, right? And you could heat those with a blow dryer and you could cool them off with a bucket of ice. And it doesn't take much. And once I can tell you, once it's 70 degrees in these, it's 70 degrees. I built a home for myself that we recently sold up on the lake in Wisconsin, in Pleasant Prairie, and we had a heated slab, and it was really interesting. Dead of winter, you turn the thermostat, and we had it set at 70, so you'd see the floor go 69, 69.5, and then at 70 it would shut off. But because it was a concrete mass, it's still heated up, and it would be like 70.8, right? And then the next day it was like 70.7. And a couple days later it was 70.4. And that floor was literally turning on like every 6 days. And when you build a little better, and we talked was all, it doesn't cost that much more. But the first place that developers in building properties and other comparable type of products, first thing they take out is the insulation, or they throw some Pink Panther bad insulation in there, and it says R19, and it sags, and that wall is really performing at like R8. And that's the reason why you need your blowers next to your windows and everything like that, is because they're so inefficient. They don't retain their cooling or their heat. Ours just do. So that's sorry. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. No. We built a few ADUs in Evanston. I'm building a home on Washington and Asbury that'll be getting started, and we're moving into here. And on the micro homes, yeah, we built ADUs, which are prolific, and we built some tiny homes actually that we built on wheels a number of years ago. So yeah, and we built mid rises and high rises, and yeah. 100% right. That's it. And because people want home ownership, and they don't want to be living above or below or next to others if they can. And we're creating an environment where that's possible. You were next, sorry. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Once that 13 units of
Well, fortunately, these aren't very big, so most of the people, I think, will get much. No. I'm just saying in terms of the we're not bringing, most of the people that will own there, we suspect will be individuals. But you're right, there may be some that have 2 families. Well, I wouldn't suspect that we'd have very many families living in 360, but it's a possibility.
I think access neighborhoods. My question. Because we're already on a population density thing.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to be able to share the same growth in the same way, to not make it burdensome. Our community is already at the point where we also.
Here you go. Oh, here, sorry.
So basically what I was just trying to say is that from a population density standpoint, I just want to make sure that we're not putting too much stress on that small of a footprint when it's already being used for multi-unit housing in addition to the single family housing. I believe in these types of projects. I think they're great. My question is the number of units. That's where I'm at. Thank you.
Yeah, parking in every project that I think I've. Part of infrastructure is paid for from your tax base, and in that way, a very good friend of mine, architect, his name was Michael Hallmark. Is Michael Hallmark? He's still alive? It was Michael Hallmark. Michael Hallmark was the architect for Bank One Ballpark, U.S. Airway Center, Miller Park, Safeco Field, real very good architect, and grew up in Arizona and in Phoenix. And Michael has a great PowerPoint presentation, which I can share with you at some point. It was talking about density, right? And most of the cities push against density. And Michael's premise was that that Phoenix, Arizona, in the 1950s, when he grew up there, with a population of somewhere around 400,000, was way more dense than it is today, with a population of 10 times that. And he did a financial study based upon what pulling back from density means to a community, right? And how do you pay for your streets and your sewer and your police and your water and your streets? And for every floor that you take off and every unit that you take off, when you start talking about density, right, you actually cost your community more money. So the pushback here really isn't about density. It really, what you were talking about is really parking, because if you had all the density you could possibly get, you would have more tax base and more revenue for it. You'd have more people living in your community. They'd be buying more food. They would be using more of that. They would be contributing more to the tax base. So there's actually somewhat of a fallacy between stress on infrastructure, right, and the cost to pay for infrastructure, taking away that type of density. So I can get you the PowerPoint presentation. It's really awesome. But that's really the answer. But that's really. No, we're, boy, I appreciate the credit. I'm an attorney by trade and a developer. I'll leave the transportation and the utilities and everything to the municipality. And part of what you do in a community is you contribute to the tax base, and your tax dollars are then put in the hands of people that actually do that. I haven't heard from anybody at the community that's an issue they're facing. So I just don't have an answer for it. In terms of what we're doing in coming and wanting to build here, okay, geez, 1 second. We're not asking for anything, and this is where the affordable part comes in and actually gets me going a little bit. A lot of people come in when they start talking about affordability. The first thing they do is put their hand out when they come into a community and ask, how can you help me build more affordably here? And I think the better solution to it is to build smarter type of projects like this at a fair value for the community, right? And let capitalism in that way kind of work itself out without going and burdening a community and taking their tax resources to fund developers' pocketbooks, which is really how the affordable game gets played. I mean, that is the game, right? Some of the stuff that that we see, and I've got a few of my construction partners in the crowd, the stuff that you see on RFPs that are put out there for housing, their price per square foot would choke you. But they don't care because they're getting subsidies back from the government or their community. So another $50 a foot is money in their pocket and isn't really promoting. What we should be promoting is basic capitalism, quality housing. I'm gonna get to that one in the back there. I'll come to you. Yeah.
About restricting these units to people at certain income levels, because at that price, they're not for real low income people.
No.
But for, moderate to middle income.
Yeah.
And the benefits of justice about sort of exerting them for people who can income qualify, or perhaps providing some down payment assistance for the lower income.
Yeah. So two-part question there, right? It's a really, I want to take the first point first, which is who's going to live there, right? And what that is that about? When we were building, somebody asked a question of what you've asked me about. We've built stuff before. We did a lot of studying on tiny homes, and there's a tremendous desire from people who watch Tiny Home Nation and all this kind of stuff. And everybody wants a tiny home, except there's no zoning for it, and there's no financing for it, and right, and there's none of that. But what's interesting is that the people that want to not spend, what is in California 65% of their income on housing, right? That does go across a whole bunch of generations, right? So you're seeing boomers, right? That maybe have more means and more savings, also scaling down just because they don't want to spend. And then you have housing for people that might have an inordinate amount of student loans, but a good job. So that part's kind of hard to read. And no, we haven't put a lid on who it is that we're selling to in that way. This is, I think it's really a market-driven market rate. I would hope that what we get in this project is a whole cross-section of different people. As it relates to the down payment assistance, there are a ton of great programs that are out there for first-time home buyers and things like that. And we work with a few institutions that in Chicago, there are local Chicago groups, actually, banks, and they have a lot of great programs for that. So yeah.
But it doesn't matter if people don't feel
Yeah, no, you're right. You're 100% right. We're trying to solve the problem, just kind of to clean up our room, right? So there has to be more of it. We're roughly 7 million homes short in this country. So yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I just know what you do with it. We're not looking in this type of project to be restrictive. We're not looking to hit one sort of demographic. It really is a true market rate. I think it's more of a community-based question than it is anything else. I'm not really concerned about selling 13 units. So whether it was one demographic or another, I think we'll be fine there. But I think it'd be interesting to watch it as a case study. And I hope that this isn't the only one. It's certainly not the only one we want to do in Evanston. And I think we should look at who's making applications and do a study on it. I'd be interested in finding out as well. Yeah, thanks. Gentleman in the back, sorry, I'll come to you. Yeah.
Hi, thank you. I'm just gonna say it, I'm very skeptical. I am not impressed with what you're presenting. I think it goes against the neighborhood itself. I think you're delusional that 10 to 13 extra cars in the neighborhood do not add to anything. We already have a problem with Kingsley, crossing guards, people getting hit, up for hunt, people blowing stop signs over at Grant Dodge.
Yeah.
And you want to add this? for that neighborhood. We have Section 8 housing across the street that's been empty for 2 years. We have a house that's right next door to that on the market for 300,000 and it's not selling.
Yeah.
And if you were to sell something that's 350 square feet
Yeah.
at 300,000.
Yeah.
I think you put the nail on the head. This is the capitalist free market thing you're talking about. So let's get down to the nitty gritty. You're talking about a major zoning there. This property, right? Because it is a major zoning there. Because you're not allowed to have entrances that are no longer on the side, but they must be forward facing.
Yeah.
That's why the properties cannot be built like they are anymore.
Yeah.
And so you're talking about a $3.9 million profit or income stream. You can build 2 homes on this property, fit within the R3 zone, not worry about any neighborhood.
Yeah.
neighbors,
Yeah.
And get it done. To me, this is a money grab.
All right, few things. And actually, it's not. And I'll tell you why. No, well,
You can do a nonprofit, selling for 100,000.
well, I am a developer, and I am a capitalist.
So am I.
I also, the company that I bought in 2015 was based on the fact that I'm kind of sick of building how buildings are built, and we've always been trying to build better, and that's what we currently do. So I can walk and chew gum at the same time. I can both be a capitalist and also want to do things. And in my life, by the way, I have not just walked the walk, but I've talked that talk. So it's not just about money. And any project that you'll go in and you'll see that I have developed in my life has been with the community's involvement. We haven't gone in and put up what David Wallach wants as a development and my vision, because I've walked in and say, this is what I want to do. We try and do what's best for the community, right? With also, a fair value for it. In terms of the actual profit, I don't agree. What would make us more money is to do exactly what you just said. And well, and maybe somebody else would. I'm just not of the opinion that $800,000 to $800,000 homes sitting there. $1.3 million home. So let's get back to. I think what's lacking in that, and I don't know if I think what's lacking in that is any amount of heart. And what I've been trying to stress on this is the fact that you have people that work in this community that can't afford to live in this community. You have people that want to come and buy in this community and have home ownership that can't afford to do that. Perpetuating what has happened before, right? What's the definition of insanity, right? Repeating the same thing, expecting a different result. You can't change the result without looking at changing the paradigm. So I appreciate what you're saying, and there's a lot of people that will agree with you, which is to your point earlier, sir, which is where else has this been done, and what, and it's because there are communities that don't have the balls to do it. So at $300,000, we're paying fair value for the land. We're not asking for any handout on it. So the amount of money that we're making on this deal, I mean, respectfully, yeah, maybe we could have come and done more density and turned and done a townhouse project and turned them sideways and ran it all that way and not hit all the green space. There's properties right next door to us that are built lot line to lot line widthwise, and you just have a brick wall. And if you all want that, great. I'm not your guy. We're trying to do a little bit more. You can feel how you want to feel about it. I'd be happy to go and have coffee with you, maybe get to know me a little bit better, and maybe at the end of that, you might have a different opinion. I don't know, but yeah. Well, and again, I appreciate that. But given what's right next to it and the multifamily, then where? What's happened with projects like this, if you will, nationally, is they get relegated to the outskirts of a community out along the highway, oftentimes in land that, might have some environmental issues. In the last 20 years, there have been, and I'm not comparing this to it, but it's just as metaphorically, there have been 10 mobile home park communities built in the country. 10, 20 years. Now you can say what you want about mobile homes, and most of what you would say about them would be true, right? Because they're built on the outskirts and they're really crappily built. And we've relegated the people that want to be in the community, they can't afford to live in the community, to go live out there. And it's a problem. That's a problem. It's a huge problem. So what you got to do is, as a community, you look at it and say, okay, we want to do this, and we want to do this here and here and here and here. And this is a perfect location for it. This is a perfect location for it. And there are other sites in here that are also perfect. And you got to do the first one before you do the second. So, but we could talk with more. That woman there, sorry.
I just have, if I could just recap so that maybe there's been a lot to talk about for this project. That this is going to be a private development
Yes,
by your company,
yes,
which is essentially like tiny condominiums or apartments
yes,
on this land.
yes.
Is there city involvement in this project?
No,
Is there city involvement with subsidizing these homes?
no,
So this is gonna be your company, you're selling these properties.
yes,
When you talk about the infrastructure.
Yes.
that The streets around there are notoriously bad for flooding, power outages, et cetera. I know that you have nothing to do with the infrastructure of the city. But if this is something that is going to be developed on that property, what is gonna be done to make sure that there is not an overload of some of these grids? And during, you know, to the gentleman's point over there about this being a major thoroughfare, when you start looking at construction or jamming as many people into that parcel of land, how is that going to affect the surrounding area, especially when you've got kids that are biking and walking to school? So what's your timeline?
yeah, and I appreciate the question. The only thing I would take exception to was kind of the kind of squeezing them in notion. The point of the community is to make it a walkable area so that it doesn't feel like you're jamming things in. It's the last thing that we want. We're not trying to jam things in. We're trying to build something that's actually gracious. I mean, the home sizes are small, but really what we're trying to do, and you can see it on this here, there's a lot of really beautiful trees on that site that are overrun right now with a lot of weeds and tall, but you know, but we're trying to keep those there, and we're trying to make this a walkable site so that you have that type of feel when you come on to the development, and you don't feel like it's shoehorned in and squeezed in. And so that's the goal. That's the goal. You know, as it relates to infrastructure, I'm just going to get back to, you know, the financial model that my colleague, you know, had put together on there, and that you have to be a promoter of density in order to have more tax base and more revenues in your community to pay for those type of things. And then it's an allocation. And you know, I don't know what to say about all of that. We're not putting a 20-story high-rise on. You've got one bathroom in each of these. So you're adding 13 bathrooms. If you had, to the gentleman's point, if you had 2 large 1.3 million single-family homes, you'd have 6 or 7 bathrooms, right? Well, maybe not in each house, but between the two, and you'd have, you know, so, you know, the burden part of it is kind of not really there. It's incrementally more, but it's not henny penny, sky is falling, you know, more. But the bigger problem's still the bigger problem. How do you have communities where you pay for your streets and your sewer and your electricity, and how do you do things that then maximize the power grid as opposed to drain it, right? And you build better housing, you build homes and buildings that are more energy efficient. 54% of the energy needs in our country are big commercial buildings that historically have been terribly energy efficient. ASHRAE in the International Building Code was adopted in 2012, and unfortunately, the residential code doesn't have an energy code yet adopted. That's a national problem. You can build now. A lot of municipalities have it, but the international code itself doesn't have an energy code. There's something really wrong with that, right? So, we're obviously, 4, 5, 6, 7 codes beyond what the current even international building code is at. So that's how you minimize the power grid and promote things. Yeah.
I'm curious what the variances or exceptions or something could be.
Yeah. Yeah, why don't I'll turn it over to Megan. Yeah, okay, great. Megan Jones. Here, thank you.
Okay, so for this particular development, there is also a text amendment that is associated with it. That text amendment would make having multiple efficiency units a special use, which requires city council approval. So that's the first aspect of the project. And then there is the project itself, which would need to be a special use. So the text amendment, that is a change to the zoning code. That would make this particular project or having more than one efficiency home on a lot be a special use that would require city council approval. So that is the text amendment aspect of the project. But there are set standards for approval of a text amendment specifically. There are, I believe, 4 of them that the city council would have to see are met, as well as the land use commission before they make their recommendation, to see that those standards have been met in order to move the text amendment forward and actually approve it. So there are standards for approval that have to be met before something is actually done. They are within the zoning code. I cannot recall them off the top of my head. I can. It is R3. Yeah, so that's technically 2-family residential. This is zoning district. No, the text amendment is a change to the zoning code. So that would essentially change the allowances or regulations for various properties that are within that particular zoning district, or for the regulations that apply for a particular use or things like that. So it's a change to the zoning code and the language within the code. Right.
Could you explain how they relate to the home? Because my understanding is if you have a house, you build an accessory dwelling unit.
Yes.
In-laws.
Yes. So so this is 2 lots that are combined. So without a variance, we would technically be allowed to build 2 ADUs on it. We're making it part of the overall project. We have room to build 3, so we've yes, yeah. No, I think, go ahead, sorry.
No. So for accessory dwelling units, there is 1 that is allowed per lot. And that actually is starting to get into some of the variances that would need to be requested. That being said, there is still some room to update the plans, to change some things, to lessen the number of variances. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. There are variances that do relate to the number of units given the size of the lot, the height of the garage and ADU structure. That height is a little bit over what the maximum is for that particular type of use. Those pretty much get to the more intense variances that are being requested.
Well, and then someone buy an ADU, or does someone have to buy a house and buy an associated ADU with it? Because if you're just selling another home, it's just smaller, calling it an ADU doesn't, I don't get it.
And in actuality, I made the same argument you just made. I use the term ADU because it's representative of what we're building in Evanston and in the city of Chicago, not because it technically from a legal standpoint is an ADU, because it's actually not accessory to anything, right? So by definition, right? So by definition, it's not an ADU. I'm really using that term more colloquially to describe some of the other products that we've built that are representative of that structure. My apologies, I mislead. Yes. No.
So I don't know the area around Phoenix, but I know there's a lot of areas that's flooding.
So not having a basement's a positive?
So when, for example, my house is flooding a secret, you would have put in the basement, and not on the store. But this houses don't have basement. So when the street floods, where's the water gonna go?
I think, well, go ahead.
So we're at the pretty much that's still at the beginning of the process. So there's been largely just the zoning review. However, there will be other city departments that look at this project, and what is built will have to meet city code, and essentially not, to your concern, not have stormwater that runs off onto like, right, we're having more intense storms more often and things of that nature. So we will have other departments that are enforcing the various requirements associated with their department to make sure that doesn't.
Your basement doesn't flood. No, because, let me finish the sentence. Your basement floods because it is underground, right? That's the reason why your basement floods. If you're, for example, if your home was built on stilts, then the home wouldn't flood. So yes, I guess to the extent that if the street flooded and it came up over the top of the foundation, then everybody's home would flood. That's not, it wouldn't not flood because it either would have or wouldn't have a basement to it. We're not using, the city's not using your basement as stormwater management is my point. It's just the fact that you have a basement water reach. So and if it did appropriately, your basement then wouldn't flood. We'll have proper stormwater management on this, and yeah, sorry. No, but we're actually not. So you've got, in terms of square footage, the overall square footage for all the properties is roughly 4,800 square feet. If you built a home on that, your roof coverage, and let's say you had an ADU, properly using that term on that, you'd have way more, and you would also have concrete driveways, presumably, and things of this nature. Except for the homes themselves, most of what we have there is going to be permeable. The lot itself is roughly 15,000 square feet. The homes themselves add up to 4,800. So significantly less, a third of the, yeah, I think you can lose 2/3 in Evanston. We're using approximately a third. So significantly less. Yeah, I'm counting the rooftop back there in my 4,800 square feet. Yeah. The pavers will probably be permeable. Yeah. It doesn't have to be all hardscape. Yeah. Roughly 30,000. Yeah. Sorry. 4,800. So you have 360 times 10 plus the 3 units above the garage, roughly 400 each, gets you up to about 4,800 square feet. Yeah. So significantly less. Yeah. tomorrow.
No, that's still, how long the project will take?
Boy, I got my contractors and carpenters and people in the room. We get them built very quickly. We have a pretty efficient system. And I would say that to the extent that we sold them all very quickly, we could be in and out of there in 8 months. Thank you. I appreciate everybody's time. I'm going to remain afterwards. Anybody would like.
Yeah, because we want to hear from Kara Pratt about our climate action plan. And adding to the timeline that you're asking about. So the first step is it has to go to the Land Use Commission for the text amendment to the zoning code to allow more than one efficiency home on the property per lot. So, and that will have to go to City Council. And then there will be if it gets approved, then David will need a special use permit for the actual. Oh, really? Oh, okay. Might be able to go concurrently, but anyway, David needs 2 different approvals. One to change the zoning code to allow more than one efficiency home on the lot, on each lot, and then a second one for the actual design of the project itself. And they get into things like, stormwater management, and all those kinds of really important issues that you've been asking about. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think that's been part of the discussion. So, okay, let me introduce Kara Pratt, who is our sustainability and resilience manager, and let you tell us all about where we are with our climate action plan.
Thank you, Councilmember Abel. So my first question I'd like to pose is, why do we invest in climate action and resilience? Any thoughts? Feel free to shout them out. Because it's hot, getting hotter every day. Good returns on investment.
Well, actually, based on the Northwest Line deal proposed for all the environment there, I do question why this kind of thing is being proposed.
Don't lose hope. I like to say we can and we must. I think Evanston is a really unique community that is particularly equipped to invest in climate action and resilience. We have a community that's well educated, very active and passionate. We have got Lake Michigan on our shores. Do you want to take this control, Megan? Oh. And also, as many of you alluded to, science says that we have to. 2040 is the new net zero target. Our climate action resilience plan has 2050 as the target. And so right now, science says we need to do things 10 years quicker than we had anticipated here in Evanston. For those of you who are not familiar, we have a climate action and resilience plan. This is the 3rd iteration of climate action and resilience planning in the city of Evanston. We started in 2008, then there was a 2014 plan, and then CARP is 2018. It's separated out into 2 halves. The first half is mitigation efforts. The second half is resilience efforts. Anything related to mitigation is related to the burning of fossil fuels. So when you hear about vehicle electrification, when you hear about electrifying buildings, we're talking about mitigation efforts. When you hear about protecting our most vulnerable, building infrastructure that's ready for the effects of climate change, those are resilience efforts. A little known fact is that our team, who was here earlier, is responsible for calculating the community-wide greenhouse gas emissions in Evanston. So we've got an Excel spreadsheet that tells us exactly how we're doing. We check in every year. We get data from ComEd, from NICOR, from all of our community partners, our biggest employers, on which renewable energy credits they're purchasing. And then we come up with this nice graph that shows us the progress that we've made to date. So we have ambitious goals in CARP. As I mentioned, we've got a net zero goal, 100% emissions reduction by 2050. We've got an interim goal of 80% emissions reductions by 2035. And we're supposed to have our emissions by 2025 based on a 2005 baseline. That 2005 number is really common. A lot of corporations and municipalities have that 2005 baseline data. So we've been tracking since 2005. You can see here that we've reduced our emissions by just over 38% as of 2021. You can be partially excited by that because that indicates that there's a greening of the grid from ComEd. ComEd is relying less and less on fossil fuels. Are any of you in the room in our MC squared community choice aggregation program or community solar? Just one. So thanks to this gentleman, your efforts have helped us reduce our greenhouse gas emissions as well as we purchase renewable energy credits based on that effort. What about solar panels? Anyone in the room have solar in their house? Several more. Again, thanks to you all, we're reducing this number a little bit. What about electric vehicles? What about walking and biking? Excellent. So thanks to you all again, those numbers are factored into this equation and we're reducing a little bit. However, the caveat is we've done a lot of the easier stuff. We've done some of the low-hanging fruit projects, and everything into the future we anticipate to be difficult and most likely more expensive. However, I'll get into my presentation later. There's a lot of incentives out there as well. So each year we set an action agenda to implement our climate action and resilience plan bit by bit. This year, the most exciting change that's been made is I'm no longer an office of one. There are 4 of us, 3 permanent full-time and 1 summer intern that we have. They were going to give this presentation, but it just got a little bit too late and I couldn't make them stay. We're working on an environmental equity investigation to find solutions to environmental justices in Evanston. That is a process in proposal phase right now. You'll hear much more about it next year. We're trying to put solar on Robert Crown, which many of you are aware is many years in the making, putting solar in that building. We've got our ongoing lead pipe replacement, which is most definitely an environmental justice solution. So if you all are curious, if you have lead pipes connected to your homes, please check out our website, enter your address, and you'll find more information there. We have a PFAS study that will be underway over the next couple months. That's to address some of those forever chemicals that are present in Lake Michigan water. We're one of the first communities in the Midwest, one of the first Great Lakes communities to do this study. So I think you can rest assured that we're really protecting our tap water and we're really innovative in this space, trying to make sure that we're ahead of the PFAS and regulations that would be coming our way from the EPA. ComEd is hinting that they have more vehicle rebates and electric vehicle charging rebates coming our way in 2024. So please keep an eye on information about that. We've got a Parks and Green Space strategic plan. Again, our website has information on ways to engage and submit feedback about that. And then I'll get into some of these incentives and legislation. So first, we've got a Green Homes pilot program that is not terribly relevant to everyone in this room, as the pilot phase is just for parts of the 5th ward and parts of the 8th ward. That is the initial project to start to think about at-home decarbonization. So any project to start to get your home off of gas, get your home fully electrified, and start to reduce the energy burden and your utility costs over time. So we hope to eventually spread that to all residents of Evanston. We had a meeting back in April where we went through some of those opportunities for decarbonization at home, incentives for solar, incentives for some appliances coming from the Inflation Reduction Act. So if you want to grab this QR code, we have a Google Doc that is chock full of resources about what you can do at home and the money that might be available over the next several months. I can also email this out as I see people taking out their phones. It is on the website, but it's, I'll email it out. It might be easier to find that way. Got it? Okay, thanks. Next, for the business community, we have a Sustain Evanston program. Again, these are incentives up to $25,000 for any project related to our climate action and resilience plan. You've only got 2 more days to apply for the 2023 window. So if you're really interested, have a business, love a business in Evanston, please reach out or give this a Google and get your application in very soon. Otherwise, fingers crossed, we'll have funding again next year. Next, many of you are aware already, we had some recent legislation to ban plastic bags community-wide, as well as to tax them, tax the remaining bag types at the big box stores. So I hope you all are bringing your own bags to avoid that fee and just to prepare for additional legislation that might come our way related to this type of single-use plastics. Since we don't only focus on single-use plastics in Evanston and we're trying to focus more on a circular economy, we also have a survey to understand your concerns with anything related to waste management at home. If you're frustrated about composting, recycling, getting rid of appliances, or anything that's hard to recycle, that information will be compiled here in this survey to try to understand what we can do to improve those services. Then, breaking news, as of last night, the tree preservation ordinance was passed for introduction at City Council. And so this is an ordinance that disincentivizes eliminating trees on private property. And it will go to City Council for action on September 11th. And then some more breaking news. We have a referral from several of our City Council members and from Mayor Biss to start to think about how we can phase out new natural gas connections for new construction. And so we're holding first a town hall on this matter to understand what we might be missing, what research we might need to still conduct to make progress on developing this legislation. And we also have a survey that went live on Thursday. You might have seen it in the e-news to start to get some feedback on this topic. Oak Park just last month passed an ordinance like this, first in the Midwest. And with that, I've left our sustainability contact information. And I will stay for questions to the end because I know that we have a couple more things to talk about. But if anyone has questions that they want the whole group to hear, love to hear them. Yes, Jen.
Thank you very much. I'm curious if there is any thought being given to a requirement for an environmental impact study on major and minor developments in the city that involve, major demolitions and construction of major new facilities. Because I know of one such proposal that has no environmental impact assessment attached to it.
I could speak to some recent efforts about starting to disincentivize complete demolition and work more towards building deconstruction. So there are some incentives that have been changed in that way proposed, and perhaps next year we'll have a more comprehensive conversation about how to focus on a circular economy in this way, think more about building deconstruction instead of demolition, and think about the carbon footprint of the entire building process. In terms of environmental impact studies, I'm not an expert on that, so perhaps we'll kick that to the conversation in a couple minutes. Yes.
Okay, so I have spent the last few days gathering information and numbers on emissions. And the city has done great by eliminating leaf blowers. Now it's doing all these other things. It's promising great things. But I just want to mention, how do you feel about an added 18 metric tons of CO2 added in just 6 days of transit within a 2-mile radius? Would that be what the Evanston CARB initiative consider acceptable? And I'm talking here, of course, about the Northwestern proposals that now have gone down to 6 proposed events. And I've done calculation basing my numbers on the EPA on all the emissions, carbon monoxide, nitrous oxides, et cetera, PM particles. And the CO2 is interesting because it's equivalent to 20,000 pounds of coal burned. So that's for just 2,000 cars in 2-mile radius, and doesn't count all of the other transportation that they would have, or all the other cars that would be coming in and parking downtown, etc. So that's a major concern for us. It's the environmental impact, the health hazard, and the global warming caused by such events.
I think it might be best to transition into the conversation about Bryan Field, because I certainly don't have a response to that comment.
I don't know if it's an oversight, the chat is able to Zoom for a reason. Because the people on the Zoom call just go live. So the chat.
The chat's disabled on the Zoom. Should I, do you want me to consider it? Or not? I mean, we're basically, thanks, Kara. We weren't setting up to be able to be interactive with the people who are watching at home. So, yeah. No, I think we're finished there. Okay. So now I had a request to, basically have a time for update. And obviously the stadium project was one of the things mentioned. So you all know that Northwestern has revised its text amendment proposal. And the new wording for the new text amendment, proposed text amendment, is on the city's website on the proposed projects webpage. And so anyway, because of the last minute change in the text amendment, proposed text amendment, and the fact that Northwestern was submitting a lot more documents towards the very, really late in the game, the Land Use Commission first meeting to talk about the stadium project has been, as you know, postponed to September 6th. I was going to ask Liz. Liz, there we are. I'm sorry, right. I was going to ask Liz to kind of run through how the Land Use Commission meetings are going to go, what to expect at the first meeting and the second meeting. I'm assuming more than one meeting.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. So as Councilmember Ravel mentioned, on September 6th will be the first. Oh, great reminder. Thank you. I'm Liz Williams. I'm the Planning and Zoning Manager for the City of Evanston. So on September 6th, it will be the first Land Use Commission public hearing on the proposed text amendment for allowing concerts within the U2 zone, in addition to the planned development to reconstruct Ryan Field. How this meeting will go. The chair will open the hearing. He will ask the applicant to give a presentation. He's dedicated 30 minutes to that presentation. From there, he will open it up to public comment. We've received several requests from groups in the community to give presentations. Those will probably be around 5 minutes, but that is at the discretion of the chair based on how many requests they receive. Then it'll move into public testimony. So anyone within 1,000-foot radius of the project will get an opportunity to testify. And then beyond that, anyone who lives outside of that noticing radius will also get an opportunity to speak and provide feedback. That is at the discretion of the chair. Typically it's 2 minutes, but it's based on the number of folks. 2 minutes is the most time that anyone is provided for public comment. And it's based at based on the discretion of the chair, he could modify that. We anticipate a very large turnout for this project. And so one of the things that he has noted is that we may not even get through public comment on September 6th. So, there is that possibility that the hearing will be continued just to allow the opportunity for everyone to have the chance to speak about the project.
Okay, you said they get 5 minutes each or 5 minutes total?
So it is per group, the time, and those requests have to be made in advance of the meeting. I believe, Megan, it's 5 days in advance of the meeting, so it's getting close if you want. And in addition to that, there's the request of the chair that who you are representing be included in your request to speak on behalf of the community group. It's okay, we'll circle back. So in terms of
we could rebut what Northwestern was saying. Will that be still the case?
So part of any public hearing is there is the opportunity to request a continuance. And that could be requested from, just let me finish. That could be requested from anyone who lives within the noticing radius. At that continuance hearing, so it would be a later date, there is the opportunity for those that requested the continuance to do cross-examination. Correct, not at the first meeting. Yep.
Whole discussion where the cross-examination was supposed to happen then, and then it got continued, and the people who talked couldn't cross-examine on the first day to cross-examine on the second. So the people who testify and give comments, they can still cross-examine if they're within 1,000 feet, if they get a continuance?
If a continuance is requested in writing, yes, you get the opportunity to do cross-examination. All right, so I'll let you ask your question and then I'll continue.
If I was scheduled to talk, can I cede my time to someone else so he can aggregate more time?
I think that's at the discretion of the chair. I know he's allowed that at past hearings. I'm not certain that that would be something he would allow at this. But absolutely, if that's something you would like to do, you can sign up and then you can offer that when your name is called to cede your time.
Thank you. Quick question. You said if there's a continuance, it has to be in writing, but to who and by when? And also, I want to make a point too. This is not just about concerts. This is about the complete commercialization of the U2, 30 acres of tax exempt land. And people keep trying to reduce it to 6 or 7 concerts. This could have concerts, events every day.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that I think is really important, and if you attended the community meeting earlier, Chair Rogers was in attendance, and one of the things that he mentioned that is helpful for the commission is to get specific feedback on changes to the proposal that which could be considered by the land use members. So, feedback in terms of we don't want any concerts is what they are looking to hear, or 3 concerts may be acceptable. So the opinions and the feedback of community members is really important in this legislative process. So I encourage you, if that is, your position and what you want to share with the Land Use Commission, absolutely make sure that they're aware of that. So in terms of continuance requests, those would be submitted to Megan Jones on the proposed project page. There is contact information for Megan. In addition, it could be in writing that night as well.
we were given a lot of trouble and for, was it 7 minutes, it was back and forth, the language, those effective and particularly given lawyer, one of the people that explained initially were like, so let this conclude now. How many people do I have to ask for the yes? Number one.
Yep.
What kind of language, same language, slightly different asking? And is there any place on the side that gives an indication of what kind of language can we get?
Great question. So in terms of continuance requests, the city code says that continuance requests to the Land Use Commission shall be granted. It is not a may be granted, it is a shall be granted. So that is a really important thing to note. And then in terms of guidance on what to include in that continuance request, on the city's website, if you Google Land Use Commission, City of Evanston, the page for that commission will come up. And under the Purpose tab, there are Land Use Commission rules and procedures. Within that document, it specifically outlines the requests for continuance and how to submit those. So that's the best resource that I can point community members to. How many? As many as people within that noticing radius want to request. It would just be one individual within the noticing radius.
We'd like to understand why you're not going to follow the rules, which say a minimum of 10 minutes for each group presenting.
My understanding is that the rules and procedures of the Land Use Commission say that it's up to 10 minutes and it's at the discretion of the chair in terms of how much time is granted. That is the indication, but again, it depends on how many requests of community groups are received.
Whether it's good or bad, it's community, and to so limit community organization, make comments like ridiculous things.
Those comments too are the question.
Well, just questions, the request of wanting to limit them.
I think that they are typically limited in time to, Megan, is it 30 minutes per application request? Yeah, and in this instance, there are 2 application requests. So technically they would, by the rules, get an hour, but the chair has already limited their time to half of that. So, you know, I think there's a balance, and I think that this is a really important opportunity, and I encourage you to share your concerns with the chair. Again, this isn't staff's decision. No, but you can certainly send it to staff and we will get it to him.
So there's a lot of discretion for the chair. You're giving us a lot of important information off the cuff here. And this is such a critically important subject that we should understand what the ground rules are pretty damn specifically and not off the cuff. I mean, we don't have you as a permanent resource that we can go, well, we can, okay, that we appreciate that. But what I'm saying is, this is such a big issue for the city. I think that we need to understand in writing what the rules of engagement are. Thank you.
Yeah, that is a great point. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Megan to pull up on the screen the Land Use Commission rules and procedures so that you all know where that is located, because that lays out the ground rules by which the Land Use Commission operates. And that is a really, really good tool for you to take a look at and to understand, because it is a complex process. And you're right, staff is very familiar with these things. So know that we're a resource. You can always call us. We will walk you through this process to the best of our ability, and give you the information you need to be informed in this process.
Is the time limit passed for submittals to the Land Use Commission in writing so that it's something that they will consider in their deliberations? And are they going to consider the MOU that is circulating?
So there is a letter of intent that has been submitted by Northwestern. It's a draft. It has not been signed. That was recently updated on the project page to clarify the confusion around what that document is. Remind me of your first question. Oh, submittal timelines. So our goal is to get this packet out as soon as possible. It's a lot of information, as everyone has pointed out. So ideally, it would go out later this week. So we're Tuesday, either Wednesday or Thursday is our goal to get the staff report and public comments that have been received in writing out there for folks to start reviewing, and the Land Use Commission to have the time to read through hundreds of thousands of pages of public comment that have come in on this. I would say if you could get it in by noon tomorrow, that is a good time frame by which you get it in. You can submit public comment all the way up to the meeting. It is just if it is received after 5 p.m. Yep. Yeah, if it's received after 5 p.m. on this is all in the rules and procedures, which is why I'm saying make sure you read through all of these items. If it's received, it will get emailed out to the Land Use Commission members and posted on the website. So if you don't get it to us by noon tomorrow, they'll still get it as long as you get it to us by, I think it's 4 or 5 p.m. the day of the meeting. Yep. It won't be in the packet that goes out, but they will receive it before the meeting.
I have someone online who asked me to ask you a question. Was there ever a notice sent out about the LUC meeting being rescheduled?
So we did send out a press release through the city's Gov Delivery Service. We also reissued legal notice in the Sun Times, and we also sent new postcards to property owners within 1,000 feet. It may be showing up any day now. I can't control UPS or USPS.
I'm just curious if the volume of public comment is burdensome to deal with within the time frame that you now have. What's the process for then saying delay the meeting again to provide sufficient time for people to absorb that information?
Great question. So as I mentioned, it's likely we won't get through public comment in the first meeting. So the hearing will be continued to a date determined by the Land Use Commission. My speculation is it would not be the following week, Wednesday, just because there are a number of cases already on that agenda. So it may be continued to the second meeting in September, but I don't want to put a date on it because it's not my decision to make. And that second hearing would be where additional public testimony would be offered. And then what happens when public testimony concludes is essentially the commission has the opportunity to ask questions of the applicant, clarifying questions, and then they'll go into deliberations. Wait 1 second. Before they do that, they will entertain continuance requests. If there are continuance requests, it'll go to another meeting. So it is very potentially likely that at a minimum, this could take 3 meetings.
Just a follow-up for you, Eleanor. So were that to happen, I guess it's conceivable that the city council could vote before the Land Use Commission. Okay, all right.
That's a good clarification. So the Land Use Commission has to make a formal recommendation on this request. That then travels to the City Council, or sorry, Planning and Development Committee of the City Council. They meet the second and fourth Monday of every month. And that same evening, the City Council will consider those requests for introduction as well. So that will be the first reading at the council level. And then there will be a second reading for action. And so that is another opportunity for public comment during the process at both Planning and Development Committee and City Council. You could provide comments at Planning and Development Committee the first night, City Council the first night, and City Council the second reading. So there are several additional opportunities beyond the Land Use Commission to have your voice heard. Yeah, I think it's intertwined. You know, as you're providing public comment, it would be important to integrate your feedback in terms of changes to the proposals, specific changes to the proposals, specific conditions to the proposal that would help mitigate some of the impacts. That's the type of feedback that Chair Rogers has indicated would be helpful.
Could you talk a little bit about if continuances are granted, then the organizations who've been granted the continuance, what do they get?
Yeah, so organizations that have or individuals who have requested a continuance will have the opportunity to present additional information, testimony into the record, and they will also have the opportunity to cross-examine the applicant. So that could include specific questions or clarifications on what they've presented about. So pretty much anyone who has submitted or talked during the applicant's presentation, that's an opportunity to do cross-examination. And I know these are very technical terms in terms of cross-examination, but really it is intended to clarify or present new evidence to challenge what the applicant has submitted.
The chairman listened. Okay, so there was a cross-examination, but instead of the person, let's say I have a question and Mary here has a question and we're cross-examining Northwestern, instead of my question and then Northwestern answering it, the chairman asked all of us asking a question to ask the questions. So by the time that Northwestern went to answer those questions, of course, they had forgotten about half of the gist of what we had asked, even if the chairman wrote down some notes. It wasn't quite the same thing. Is it going to be the same way?
Well, I wasn't around in 2019, and I've been involved with one case that has had a continuance request. And at that time, it was one individual. And so it wasn't the circumstance that you're talking about in terms of how that played out. I can't speak for the chair. It is really his discretion. You know, as staff, we have absolutely no decision-making authority as it comes to the operations of the Land Use Commission. They've been appointed by the mayor, and they're the ones asked to provide recommendations to the city council. It is potentially possible that he would allow cross-examination of everybody before there is a rebuttal by or a response from the applicant. Absolutely. I always encourage things put in writing because it is something specific to go back to. And it also does help when it comes to responding to specifics. Any other questions? I'm sorry, I'm talking really, really fast right now. But it's late and want to be respectful for everyone's time.
It's really not a question to you, but to Eleanor. I am curious about the independent economic study, when that the city might get it and when it might be made public.
Well, the last information I had was it would be final report to us by mid-September. but I think we should be able to see a draft sooner, like any day now. Northwestern, it took a long time for our company to get the data from Northwestern that they needed to be able to do the analysis of the Trick-Lumbach report, for example. So, but last I heard, it was mid-September.
And then we'll make public.
Yes, it will. Yeah. Right. Well, my reading of the standards that the Land Use Commission uses to evaluate the proposals don't really focus on the economic impact, economic benefits. So that, I mean, that's certainly something the city council is going to want to look at closely, but I've looked pretty closely at the standards that the Land Use Commission looks at, and they really don't get into. Mhm. Right. Okay. Yeah. I think I may be out on a limb saying this. I think what happened in 2019 was a different chair. And I think things now are quite different with Matt Rogers. Any more questions or thoughts? Yeah. In June. I don't think that's what I said. What I probably said is at some point, there will be a meeting to hear about the demolition and construction. But I mean, we need Northwestern here to do that along with the contractor they're hiring. So Sure. Right. Well, but that comes, nobody worries about construction and demolition until after the permit is.
So they're talking about the reconstruction proposal and the relief that is being requested from the zoning ordinance for the reconstruction. So they're requesting relief. So, reductions in parking that is required for the particular use. They're requesting relief for the landscape strip setback. And then they're requesting relief for the access drive, I believe, that comes into the parking lot. So those are the three requests from the zoning ordinance that the plan development deals with. In terms of construction management, typically that is always handled prior to demolition, where a construction management plan is a requirement and condition of approval. And that all occurs at that stage because at this point, the focus is on the design, the setbacks, the height, traffic impacts, noise impacts. It does not get into the specifics of construction until they are actually granted approval to do so. So so the construction management plan would be before they were able to demolish. So they would not be able to demolish without that construction management plan. I'm getting laughs. Wow, this is great. The horse before the cart. It's getting late. Everyone's getting the giggles.
Okay, is that enough detail for everybody tonight? Okay, right. Well, you know how to get a hold of. Yeah. But Liz is very available if you have more questions, and so is Megan. And we want to make sure everybody want to make sure you have all the information you need to participate as to the full extent at the Land Use Commission. So Thanks very much, everybody, for coming.